Hi, welcome to the next in the series of Captain's Table interviews. And today I'm delighted to be joined by co-founder and CEO of Greywing, Nick Clarke. Nick, welcome and thank you for taking the time. Look, I'm going to hand to you. Maybe you tell us a little bit about Greywing.
Hi, Chris. Good to see you and delighted to be on this call. Greywing is a digital platform that automates anything that gets on or off a vessel. Right now, we're focused on crew changes, and what that means is we typically turn up to a client, we plug into their crewing software, their voyage management software, we plug into their port agents and their travel agents, and we bring all of that information together in a single dashboard that helps their crew operators plan and execute a crew change in about 1 to 2 minutes. So that's what we're focused on right now. And the exciting thing is we've recently started looking at crew planning using artificial intelligence. So what that means is we're drawing down on our customers' entire crew lists. We're looking forward for the next 12 months, and then we're using a neural network and machine learning to plan out how the crew need to be planned or operated on that vessel on the basis of OCIMF or OCIMF requirements, and also on the basis of the all majors requirements. So pretty exciting because we've got this project for crew changes that's already up and running with customers, and then we've got some new customers who've come at us with this this interesting new tool that we're developing.
Fantastic. And I remember when we first met, Nick, and it was the height of year one of the global pandemic back in 2020, and and there was obviously at that time there was a huge amount of displaced crew. Just a bit before we get into your experiences through Captain's Table, what are you generally seeing at the moment in terms of that? Is that problem being alleviated from what you're seeing, or is that still a real issue for operators?
Well, I think we were, as a company, quite lucky that COVID was such a challenge for the shipping industry, as our ability to optimize where and when you could do a crew change on the basis of port state and immigration restrictions during the pandemic was critical to our customers. But I think what's changed is almost everywhere has opened up for crew changes now. And, there's definitely no longer that demand to be able to optimize, where can I do a crew change? Now when we work with customers, we're really looking at optimizing their workflow. So can I get to a crew change in a couple of minutes as opposed to a couple of hours or a couple of days? And then we're also looking at the cost optimization. So if I've got, a few different ports where I can do a crew change, where's the most efficient place for us to do that?
Yeah, interesting. Thank you. And I appreciate that was a slightly, left field question, but I find it fascinating. And I know talking to a number of operators that's the challenge of crew over the last few years has been incredible. And we hope that now things will calm down, and if the pandemic or something similar should happen again, at least there's an element of understanding how we coped, and obviously people like yourself who are out there supporting the business with that. So no, that's great, Nick. Thank you. Look, so for everyone's benefit, and Nick and Greywing won the competition back in 2020. Nick, before we talk about sort of successes since winning the competition, what I'd be really keen to understand is if we take you right back to where your involvement with the Captain's Table started, what sort of attracted you to the competition to start with?
So if I think back to 2020, which seems a long time ago, as we approach 2023, we had a few customers that we were working with, and we were really looking to get a greater profile within the maritime industry. Hong Kong is a maritime center, so when we saw that the Captain's Table was based in Hong Kong, and also that there was a very nice cash prize for the winner, we thought, well, why not? It's a great opportunity to grow our profile. A little bit of extra money would certainly help us with runway, and I think that was mainly what drove us, because we had great market visibility in Singapore, and a lot of people knew us here, and we had a little bit overseas. But I think Hong Kong's a market that naturally a maritime startup would like to move into, and I think our experience was going into the Captain's Table definitely had that impact, where it gave us huge visibility in Hong Kong with some of the leading ship operators, but then also that cascaded down to the rest of the world as well, with that greater visibility of saying, okay, here's a maritime startup, and they've almost been audited or vetted to a certain level. through the mill of going through the captain's table.
Yeah, yeah. And excuse me, that mill's an interesting one, isn't it? And I love the expression. Would you say that the experience of sort of getting through the initial application and then into the list of finalists was quite refreshing, maybe is the wrong word, but quite challenging in terms of checking the robustness of the solution?
I think you know, if I remember rightly, the application process and the interview process that we went through was pretty straightforward. You know, I wouldn't honestly say it was that challenging, because either the solution works or it doesn't. I think it's very clear when you get to that interview process whether or not the product that you're bringing to market is going to be effective or has legs. So that was relatively straightforward. I mean, there was no guarantee, you know, from our perspective. We never felt like we were guaranteed a place, and we were definitely pleasantly surprised to be invited to participate. But I'd say the real work for us came when we started participating in the captain's table. So, I mean, there were a lot of sessions that were run by yourself and by other subject matter experts around the maritime industry, and also around sales and marketing, which I found incredibly useful. And I really felt that I learned a lot doing the captain's table, despite the fact that it was, you know, it was a relatively short program in terms of what else is out there. But I felt like, you know, what we learned was what we, you know, needed to be taught. And in terms of sales and marketing and being able to get the product to market, I still think back to some of the lessons that the person that took that session passed on. And you know, that remains the standard that I hold myself to when I interact with customers, attend calls, do meetings, and that was really, really useful.
Fantastic, and that's great. I mean, the whole boot camp experience is great to hear that, because it's designed to less educate you about your business, right? You know your business, but much more about helping you in the periphery areas, such as sales, such as marketing, legal, etc., where maybe sometimes the focus is not so there because your head's down trying to get everything else working. So yeah, that's great to hear, Nick. Thank you. And obviously you came out of the finals, which were remote for all the reasons we know, unfortunately, but you and Greywing emerged victorious. Tell us what sort of A, how that felt, you know, and B, the journey sort of then of Greywing since winning the finals.
So I'd definitely say that we went into the finals and we were playing to win, you know, so we didn't and never could guarantee that we'd win, but we definitely took it with that level of seriousness where, you know, we wanted to perform to the best of our ability and to do our absolute best to win the finals. Although, you know, I didn't know that we were going to win until we were told. You know, there's never that level of certainty because the level of competition is extremely high. So that was tough, and it took a lot of preparation. I put a lot into that personally. And then, you know, so that was a great experience coming out. It was really pleasant to you know, have that I don't know, almost confirmation or, you know, validation of our idea at the level of leading ship operators, questioning, validating, and, you know, digging into what we were doing. So that was a really great experience. And, you know, in terms of coming out of the captain's table, you know, one of the great things is that, you know, a lot of the people that were involved in the captain's table, either as judges or audience members, followed up with us afterwards about doing projects together and working together. And, you know, so it wasn't just, you know, they give you a look, they kind of say, yeah, well done on the competition, you never hear from them again. It really continued down a path of, you know, business development, which was really cool and was a huge benefit. And then moving on from the captain's table, I mean, it really, you know, it really set us up. You know, we did the captain's table. It got us to a higher level, a higher standard in terms of how we take our product to market. And then, as it was, we were heading into another accelerator program. And when we came out of that, we went through a you know, fundraising process where we did a seed round. And again, you know, all of the lessons that we picked up in the captain's table around taking the product to market enabled us to help take the company to market. And that definitely, without a doubt, helped me, get to that next level. And then, going forward, it's always nice. Every so often, people say, you might get in touch with a prospect that you've never spoken to before. They've never heard of you, but they'll remember, or they'll have seen that you won the captain's table.
Yeah.
And I've been surprised by how many people I've bumped into, whether it's in Hamburg at SMM or in Athens at Posidonia, who said, "Oh yeah, we saw that. That was really cool." And so they've already got a sense of who you are, what you've done, and what you might be able to do for them. So from my perspective, the captain's table, I would say, is the most high leverage activity that we've done outside of direct business development with clients, where we win contracts, in terms of the impact it had in getting the company and the product to market, as well as just being a great learning experience. And to be honest, I bump into other people who are involved in the captain's table, whether it's as finalists or as winners, and there's definitely a community where we'll sit down and help one another out, and it's been a real pleasure.
Fantastic, and that's great to hear, Nick. And clearly the conversations that we've been having over the last couple of years and the development of the business is fantastic. A lot of credit to you and Rishi and the team, because actually Greywing is doing phenomenally well. So congratulations. My final question, Nick, is one I always ask everybody, which is, if you are if you were a startup, or you've got one piece of advice to give a startup now looking to try and get into the maritime and logistics sector, what would that advice be?
So I'm going to take a different approach to this question, because I'm not going to give advice to a maritime startup. I think, the message that I've got here today is more for venture capitalists and for corporates within the maritime industry, that if you see a startup that's come out of the captain's table as a finalist or as the winner, then I would take them seriously, because every company that's come out has gone on to do great things within the industry. And, I'd say, we're still working towards that, but some of the stuff we're doing is really cool, and the stuff that the other finalists and the winners are doing is extremely cool, effective. And these companies can continue to scale. I saw just the other day that Cyberal did a $5 million, I think, dollar round. So they've kind of done their next round of funding. They continue to grow, and I bumped into them when I was at Posidonia. So it's not a message for the startups. If you're a venture capitalist, if you're looking for an industry to invest in, which is not going to be affected by the forthcoming potential global shutdown, shipping will continue to operate, marine and energy will continue to operate, and all of the startups that are currently in this market are going to grow independently of any other slowdown, because ships will continue to move. That's not going to change. And then to the corporates, these startups are building real solutions that can have a real impact on your business. So for a startup, as coming from in the maritime world, that's the message that I would give to the people that they need to influence, which are customers and are venture capitalists or people that will fund them. So obviously, if you're a startup, you want to be in here, because it's probably the best way to get to market with all of the people that you need to impress.
I love the closing, Nick. Thank you for that. Look, I think we've pretty much run out of time today. Nick Clarke from Greywing, it's a pleasure as always to connect, and thank you very much for taking the time, and we look forward to catching up with you again. Many thanks, Nick.
Yeah, good to see you, Chris, and I'm hoping to be at the finals in January, so I'll look forward to meeting you in person for the first time then.
Indeed. What a strange world we live in. Right, thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Chris.